We bring to you.
Finance Minister unveils the fifth and last tranche of reforms under Atmanirbhar Bharat package in the sectors of Manrega, health and education, ease of doing business, decriminalization of Companies Act, public sector enterprises and measures to augment resources of the states. Government to allocate an additional 40,000 crore rupees to Manrega to help generate employment of 300 crore person days. Health sector reforms include infectious disease hospital blocks in all districts. PM E-Vidya program for access to online education to be launched. Also to be launched is Mandoropan, an initiative of psychological support for students, teachers and parents. Further enhancement of ease of doing business envisaged by easing insolvency provisions, minor violations of Companies Act to be decriminalized. Government underlines the need for a new coherent policy with all sectors open to private sector. Centre agrees to increase borrowing limits of the states from 3% to 5% for the year 2020-21. This will give the states extra resources of 4.28 lakh crore rupees. Vande Bharat mission continues to bring back stranded countrymen in the second phase from the 31 countries till May 22. A flight from Muscat to Thiruvananthapuram will bring home 183 passengers. As part of Operation Samudra Setu, INS Jalashwa returns to Kochi from the Maldives with 588 Indians on board. And active COVID-19 cases in India is now over 53,900, 2,872 fatalities and more than 34,000 recoveries. The total recovery rate is over 37.5%. Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu extend the lockdown till the 31st of this month. Cases across the world rise to over 46 lakh and 3,11,000 fatalities. Almost 17 lakh patients have recovered globally, however. Good, that's the good news. Here's our top story. I'm Mark Lynn. Let's begin. The Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman today made some announcements, important announcements on 7 steps, which include Manrega, health and education related steps, business and COVID decriminalization of Companies Act. Now, the ease of doing business, public sector enterprises, state government resources, all these were touched upon. The centre announced the fifth and final tranche as part of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's rupees 20 lakh crore package to help realize the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat. The Finance Minister has said that timely action was taken during the COVID-19 to reduce the compliance burden under various provisions of the Companies Act. She also asserted that the board meetings were allowed to be conducted online and major reform in the corporate governance was made.
We've said companies could conduct their board meetings, their EGMs and AGMs virtually using technology through video conferences, and the latest order pertains to the fact that even rights issues can be done leveraging the strength of Digital India. This is a major step forward in corporate governance. So this is something which, because of the pandemic, the Corporate Affairs Ministry has been very proactive to engage with the companies and understand how best their problems could be sorted out. So that was a measure taken in such a context.
In the fifth and final tranche of the economic stimulus package, Nirmala Sitharaman raised the allocation for employment guarantee scheme to buy 40,000 crore rupees over and above the 61,000 crore rupees which was already budgeted for Manrega to provide jobs to migrant workers moving back to their states. This will help generate nearly 300 crore person days in total.
A lot of workers are going back to their villages, and we've made provision so that they can also join in if they want to enroll in Manrega. So government will now allocate an additional 40,000 crores. This way will ensure that during the monsoon season, and since many of them have gone back to their villages, and if they enroll, they will get the jobs.
Nirmala Sitharaman also said that the health reforms and initiatives have been put in place in these times of COVID-19 crisis. She added that investments at the grassroots level will be ramped up for health and wellness centers in rural and urban areas.
Health reforms and initiatives have been put in place. Public expenditure on health will be certainly increased. Investments at the grassroots level will be ramped up for health and wellness centers, both in the rural and urban areas. Remember that we had been talking about wellness centers so that they can be in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, and particularly giving focus in aspirational districts. So we will be ramping up all the wellness centers and health infrastructure. All districts will have an infectious diseases block in their hospitals.
The Finance Minister stressed that technology-driven education will be launched immediately for focus on multimodal access to digital or online education. And she added that top 100 universities will be permitted to automatically start online courses by the 30th of this month.
PM E-Vidya program for multimode access to digital online education will be launched immediately, and this will consist of Diksha, which gives a one nation, one digital platform facility, and this is for school education. One earmarked TV channel for each class from class 1 to 12. One earmarked TV channel per class, one channel will also be part of this. Then there will be extensive use of radio, community radio, and podcasts. So technology in a big way into education. Extensive use will be made of radio also. Special e-content for visually and hearing impaired children. This is going to be one of the very big step forward, and top 100 universities will be permitted and will be automatically allowed to start online courses, by 30th May 2020.
For industries, the Finance Minister said that the minimum threshold to initiate insolvency proceedings will be raised to 1 crore rupees from 1 lakh rupees, which largely insulates MSMEs from bankruptcy on defaulting of loans. Also, a special insolvency resolution framework for MSMEs under Section 240A of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code will be notified soon. She added that fresh initiation of insolvency proceedings will be suspended for up to 1 year depending upon the pandemic situation.
Debts related to COVID shall be excluded from default under the IBC. Then no fresh insolvency procedures or proceedings will be initiated up to 1 year. For MSMEs, a special insolvency framework. A special insolvency framework will be notified under Section 240A of the IBC. The minimum threshold to initiate insolvency proceedings is now raised to 1 crore from 1 lakh, which will therefore insulate the MSMEs. This is a major step forward, and in all probability we will be going through an ordinance.
The Finance Minister also said that the government has decided to decriminalize the Companies Act violations involving minor technical and procedural defaults. She added that 7 compoundable offences have been altogether dropped and 5 will have to be dealt with under the alternative framework.
Is decriminalize most of the sections in Companies Act where you have violations which are technical and procedural nature. So we want to decriminalize all of them. Then compoundable offences where there are, they can now be tried under internal adjudicating mechanism, and this way, one, it becomes simpler, it can be sorted out at the local, the local internal adjudicating mechanism route rather than go to the courts.
And the Finance Minister announced that Indian public companies can list their securities directly in foreign jurisdictions. Private companies which list non-convertible debentures on stock exchanges will not be regarded as listed companies, which will enable ease of doing business in the country.
Now companies can list their securities directly in foreign jurisdictions. So this is one big step forward for Indian companies. And then second, listings of non-convertible debentures on stock exchange will not be regarded as those companies as listed companies.
And the Finance Minister also announced plans to privatize PSUs in non-strategic sectors. The government also announced a new policy for companies under state control, saying that PSUs in non-strategic sectors will be privatized, while those in the identified strategic sector would be capped at 4, with the rest to be merged or sold.
We are coming up with a coherent policy wherein private sector will be allowed to participate in every sector available, but of course public sector will continue, and they will continue to play a very critical role. At least one public sector enterprise will be present in those sectors which get notified.
And Nirmala Sitharaman also said that the centre has decided to accede to the request of states and increase the borrowing limits of states from 3% to 5% for 2020-21 only.
Have written to me saying, please increase our borrowing limit. It is now 3% of your state's GSDP. We have now agreed to increase this to 5%. Because it's an unprecedented situation, we have acceded to the demand of the states and increased their borrowing ceiling from 3 to 5%. This will give an extra 4.28 lakh crores to the states.
And our correspondent Abhishek Jha now joins us on the phone line with more details. Abhishek has been at all those press conferences addressed by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Well, Abhishek, you have been there for all the 5 press conferences, and you've seen all that the Finance Minister has unveiled. Today, the key announcements regarding the Companies Act, also with regard to PSUs, the government, wanting to disinvest and get out of the way in a sense. What kind of a signal is this sending to the corporate sector?
Okay, so Mahmood, today was the last leg of 20 stimulus package that the Minister has announced for the 15 days of the COVID crisis. And today the focus was mostly on governance reforms and sectors which have been so far not discussed. Health sector, education sector, rural economy was also discussed. Education was especially important because the financial situation has in the wake of COVID. There is an urgency for students to shift to online platforms for reading, and for this government is launching a few platforms like Mano Darshan and PME. And there will be a Prime Minister's initiative on education. Also for the sector, Finance Minister has continuously said that government will be doing lot more to capacity of banking sector, and if you also discuss about the tax reforms that government has done in the past, company reforms that government has done in the past, to also allay the fears of the sector that the law will take strong action against them for the minor illegal activities that they have seen in the past. So there is a shield from from the government side also that the government wants to appeal to the industry that they should come and they should work with the confidence that government is not going against them in a very terrorizing manner.
Right, Abhishek. Thanks for those inputs. So clearly, the government making things much easier for people to do business, also enhancing demand potential, and at the same time easing the restrictions in a sense for suppliers so that manufacturing can boost up, because the government has to have both demand and supply side well taken care of. Let's move on to our next story then. The Union Home Minister Amit Shah said on Sunday the announcements in the economic stimulus package made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will go a long way in realizing the idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat. He said that the announcements regarding the health sector will help India get ready for any crisis in the future. In a series of tweets, Amit Shah said, and I quote, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership in handling COVID-19 has outshined several developed nations, he has resolved to prepare India for any such pandemic in the future by strengthening and revamping India's health sector. Announcements by the Modi government will go a long way in realizing the idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat. These steps will prove to be a game changer for health, education and business sectors, which will provide employment to crores of people, crores of poor. I thank Prime Minister Narendra Modi and FM Nirmala Sitharaman. The Union Minister Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi said that the economic stimulus package will play a vital role in India's growth story. He added that these reforms will go a long way in realizing the idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Let's listen.
ये रिफॉर्म जो है वो आत्मनिर्भर, स्वावलंबी, स्वदेशी भारत के निर्माण की समय सारणी है। अगर आप देखें किसान से लेकर मजदूर तक, खेत से लेकर खलिहान तक, डेयरी से लेकर के फेरी वाले तक, हर तरफ उनके सरोकार, उनकी समस्याओं के समाधान के संकल्प से भरा हुआ ये तमाम रिफॉर्म है।
Captains of industry have welcomed the reforms announced by the government. The Confederation of Indian Industry has lauded the announcements.
The PSC disinvestment policy for strategic and non-strategic sectors is a very big step towards adding efficiency to industry and economy. We also really welcome the relief which has been given to the companies under the Companies Act and IBC. Honorable Finance Minister has also strategically targeted the package to for the poor. And this is very, very important, building health and education capabilities and also unleashing tremendous power of industry to contribute to employment as well as for national development.
The UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has welcomed Union Finance Minister's decision to increase borrowing limits of states from 3% to 5% of GDP. He said it will be very helpful to the states.
जो सबसे बड़ी बात है कि राज्य जिस बात की मांग कर रहे थे कि FRBM की सीमा को 3 से 5% किया जाए, आज इस मांग को भारत सरकार ने 1 वर्ष के लिए अपनी सहमति दी है। इससे राज्यों को अपने आवश्यकताओं की पूर्ति के लिए लेने की एक सुविधा मिल जाएगी और 3 से 5% की सीमा बहुत अच्छी सीमा है। मेरा अनुमान है कि देश का जो सबसे बड़ा MSME सेक्टर है वह उत्तर प्रदेश में है, तमिलनाडु में है और देश के अन्य जो राज्यों में है। ये देश की अर्थव्यवस्था की बैकबोन है और इससे बहुत मजबूती मिलेगी और रोजगार सृजन के भी ढेर सारे अवसर इससे प्राप्त होंगे।
Reacting to the 5th tranche of the economic package, the President of the South Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Ganapathy, has said that the measures taken to boost the economy in general and the health sector in particular will prove to be very beneficial.
The 5th and final stimulus package announced by the Finance Minister has been transformational for quite a few sectors. The corporates have much to cheer about. The IBC has been amended, or at least it's proposed to be amended to give relief across a few sections, decriminalization of several acts, and much needed relief in listing of NCDs. The healthcare sector in India has been amongst the most neglected sectors, and this gets much needed focus with a great ground level rural thrust for the first time.
Lauding the announcement made by the Finance Minister, the ASSOCHAM General Secretary Deepak Sood said that the economic package touches all sectors.
The closure of the fifth tranche announcement, I think it's a good detailing of the full impetus stimulus package of 20 lakh crores announced by the Prime Minister. This is taking care of various sectors, incentivizing the states, making finances available to them. Education sector has been taken care of. Health infrastructure, making us ready for the future should there be any concerns with pandemics like this. And the reform process linked with the stimulus package is something that is going to help us build capacity and future ready.
The BJP President J.P. Nadda has lauded the announcement made by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman for additional allocation of 40,000 crore rupees for MGNREGS scheme. Nadda congratulated Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his concern and timely initiative to provide adequate work and income earning opportunities to migrant families returning home. In the second phase of the ongoing Samudra Setu mission of the government to repatriate Indians from various parts of the world, INS Jalashwa, carrying nationals, has reached Kochi. People stuck due to the coronavirus lockdown are being brought back, and they will be kept in mandatory quarantine for 14 days, for which the government has made elaborate arrangements. Villagers of Mardola village in Agastya Muni Vikas Khand of Rudraprayag district have decided to do something and put additional pressure on the government. Thus, they have set up 3 quarantine centers in the village itself, with all required facilities. The migrants returning from the red and the green zones will be kept separately at these centers. The CCTV camera, these have also been installed to keep a check on the quarantine violators. So they've reduced all the trouble for the government.
3 क्वारंटीन सेंटर हमने बनाए हैं, एक पंचायत भवन का, एक प्राथमिक विद्यालय तैयार कर रखा और एक टेंट व्यवस्था जो क्वारंटीन वार्ड बना रखा। हमारे मुख्यतः गुजरात और गुड़गांव हरियाणा और दिल्ली और हरिद्वार से आने वाले ज़्यादातर लोग।
Meanwhile, amid various government efforts to help stranded people across the country to reach their home during the lockdown, the passengers have praised the Indian Railways and the government for providing adequate facilities to avoid the spread of COVID-19 during travel. Let's take a look at what passengers had to say.
I boarded this train, Rajdhani, to go to my home, Kanpur Central from New Delhi station. As I entered the station, so everything was followed as per guidelines, like I was following the social distancing and all the volunteers were following the social distancing. They checked the ticket and only the confirmed ticket people were allowed to board the train, and there was proper checking of the temperature as well, and whosoever with a higher temperature was not allowed to enter the station. Only with the normal temperature people were allowed, and the train is quite clean, like I can see, but definitely the passengers are following every guideline for their own safety. Thanks to government and railways to drop us.
COVID-19 cases continue to be on the rise worldwide, with over 46.29 lakh confirmed cases and over 3.11 lakh people who have died. Now, over 16.91 lakh people have recovered so far, and that's the good news. In the worst affected country, which is the United States, cases rose 1.8% in the last 24 hours, just above the one-week average. The figures of confirmed cases have now reached over 14.66 lakh with over 88,000 deaths. Meanwhile, New York is considering reopening racetracks and a host of other activities, including baseball, in a limited capacity as the state begins loosening restrictions. Now, New Jersey, Connecticut and Delaware already have reopened beaches on May 15, aiming to prevent people from crossing state borders for a respite from the coronavirus lockdown. Earlier, President Trump said that the US government was working with other countries to quickly develop a vaccine to prevent infection by the coronavirus, while also preparing for its distribution once ready. While experts strongly suggest that a vaccine will take at least a year to develop. In Italy, daily coronavirus death toll dipped to its lowest since March 9. The daily toll was of the COVID-19 epidemic in Italy fell to 153 on Saturday, while the daily tally of new cases increased to 875 from 789. Italy's coronavirus deaths surpassed 31,000 mark. And with that, we conclude this bulletin. Thanks very much for being with us. Namaskar.